Waste can lurk in every corner of a production operation and drag down productivity, impact customer service, and limit growth. In this panel of transaction printing efficiency experts, you will hear best practices for driving waste out of workflows without sacrificing quality or service. Because if you get the process right, your future will be bright. Elizabeth Gooding, partner at Inkjet Insights, will moderate a panel of three, including Tina, the VP of Operations from InfoImage, Robert, the VP Delivery Services from Cobra, and Tom, CEO Business Development at HC3.
Welcome, everyone. You found us today at the transaction printing session called Process Right, Future Bright here at Think, and we're really happy to have you here with us. I'm Elizabeth Gooding, and I'm here today with a great panel to talk about driving waste out of inkjet operations. I'm lucky to have three panelists with me here today. They've been willing to share their experience, and the first with us here is Tina Esparza, who's the Vice President of Operations with InfoImage you're in Texas, right, Tina?
Correct.
Yeah. And Rob Iantorno, who's the Vice President of Delivery Services with Cobra. And Rob, you still up there in the Great White North?
I'm still in the Great White North. Come on, it's 30 degrees here today, so it's not too white. 30, which is about 95.
Great. And we have Tommy McGahey joining us. He's the CEO from HC3 from another warm climate. Hi, Tommy.
Hey, Elizabeth. Yes, I'm here in Birmingham, and it's funny that Rob's just as hot as we are.
Yeah, and Boston, where I am, we're getting up over 90 today, so it's feeling more like we're visiting Cannon down in Boca. So it may be virtual, but we're all in it together, right? So, well, thanks for being here, guys. We're here today to talk about eliminating waste, and waste comes in all kinds of forms. It can really drag your operations down. It can lurk in pretty much every corner of your production environment. And we're going to talk about ways of driving the waste out of workflows without impacting quality or customer service, which is also key. So I like to say it's a lot like herding sheep. You can just keep moving the problems from one place to another if you don't have a good process in place. And our panelists today have identified many sources of waste and lots of good ways to drive that waste out of your environment, and really trying to look at how to herd everyone in the right direction so you can improve the results. But first, let's get a little information on everybody on our panel, starting with me. I have many years of experience designing transaction communications and also helping companies choose their service provider and get their work up and running. I also worked with Canon, and I wrote the Designer's Guide to Inkjet along with Mary Schilling, and we had so much fun doing that. We decided to start another business together, which is Inkjet Insight. And inkjetinsight.com provides information and tools to help companies evaluate inkjet, optimize inkjet environments, and grow more pages using inkjet technology. So in my job and yours, it's really, really valuable to talk to people with hands-on experience, hands-on inkjet users. And that's why I'm really happy to introduce our panel. And let's start with Tina Esparza from InfoImage.
Well, hi, good morning. We are so happy to be here today. InfoImage has been around a little over 30 years now, and we've got this fierce focus on serving credit unions and banks and helping them bring their transactional data to life. We have operated in a cut sheet environment since the beginning, and we're very excited to have implemented inkjet printing systems starting in 2018. We started with a ColorStream 6900, and we are super excited for the install of our two i300s, which are scheduled for September of this year. We are using these systems exceptionally well to help us focus not just on our clients' core system integration, but also their print and mail, their transactional documents, and getting them out to the clients in fabulous time with great color and great clarity.
That's great. I love the term fierce focus. I might have to steal that at some point. So I remember talking to you back in 2018 when you were getting that first device. It's really exciting to hear that you're bringing on more. So we'll love to talk more about that on the panel. So let's jump now and learn more about Rob and Kubra.
Sure. Kubra was founded in 1992. We're actually headquartered in Mississauga, Ontario, Canada. We do have our headquarters in Arizona as well. That's our US headquarters. We have 4 facilities across North America. So we've got Mississauga, we've got Texas, New Jersey, and California. We serve about 550 clients, 185 or so utilities. 67% of them are the top 25 utilities in the North America. We started Inkjet probably in 2013 in our head office in Mississauga, and since then we have added multiple machines across our sites. I think we now have 6 between 3,900 and 6,900 devices, and we're continuing to build on that platform. More and more clients are wanting to go inkjet, so this is the sort of the direction we've wanted to take.
That's great. So Rob, do you now have inkjet at all of the facilities?
Pardon me? No, we have inkjet at all our facilities.
All of them. That's great.
Yeah, so
Wonderful.
We've got I think 4 3,900s, and recently back in this January purchased 2 more 6,900s.
That's awesome. Great. Okay, so now let's learn more about Tommy and HC3.
Good morning, Elizabeth. HC3 was founded in 1962. We're headquartered in Birmingham, Alabama. We have additional facility in Dallas, Texas. We are a data-driven technology company delivering customer communications for our clients by managing complex data generated from multiple client systems. We help our clients communicate with their customers in meaningful ways. We offer focused solutions for statement and notice design, intelligent marketing campaigns, seamless delivery of both print and digital communications for banks and credit unions. Through these solutions, we empower the service organizations to give their customers a fully customized document experience. In the sample on the screen, you can see that there are marketing messages at the top and the bottom of the screen that are controlled by our clients. We offer custom redesign of statements delivered for print or electronic, and as I said, primarily for banks and credit unions. Our Canon equipment is a i300 that we acquired in 2018.
That's great. So Tommy, it looks like, unlike the rest of us, it looks like you might be in the office. Are you working?
I am in the office. This is
All
a
right.
rare event in these times of the pandemic.
Yes, it's good. It's good to see where you work once in a while, right? So
It is. It's
great.
nice to be back here and see a limited staff of people here.
Yeah, good. Keep the pages coming out. So, well, as
That's
you
right.
can see, folks, we got a great panel here with us with lots of background in transaction print and a lot of background with inkjet, and we're going to talk about how to eliminate the waste. So it's pretty typical that inkjet has been justified by companies in terms of eliminating waste. I mean, it's true. The white paper factory concept was a big seller early on. People didn't necessarily think it made sense because they said, "Oh, full color, how can that possibly save money?" But it's true. One of the early inkjet adopters that I worked with 10 years ago or so was able to drive twice the output using 75% less space and 30% less people. So, I mean, all operations are different, depends where you're coming from, where you're going to. But when you actually run the numbers, the savings can be pretty significant. And productivity on inkjet, when you're moving, even sheet fed, if you're coming from toner, you can replace anywhere from 2 to 10 toner devices with an inkjet device, depending on the size of it. So that means less devices, less operators, less space, and all kinds of other benefits that come from that. But even with all those great things from the White Paper Factory, as we've discussed on some of our previous calls, waste can still be lurking in the corners. And so let's talk about a few specific areas about where we can drive waste out of the organization. So let's talk about the physical waste and the different ways to get that out of the way. Tina, I know we talked early on about some of the things that you learned when you moved to Inkjet. Would you share some of the physical waste savings and approaches that you learned from?
Sure, absolutely. So in our environment, we have over 200 clients, banks and credit unions. And you can imagine they're very accustomed to using a preprint shell in a toner-based environment. And some of our clients have 2 and 3 different preprint shells. So one of the largest waste savers that we found was when clients want to do a very simple upgrade, maybe change a phone number or add a branch because they're expanding. That resulted in a tremendous amount of paper that needed to be recycled for them, along with other inventory management issues that come along with that. And so now that we have the ability to print in line their color and their preprint shell and make a change in as little as an hour, we're able to handle that product change for them and have absolutely none of the waste that used to come with the old preprint shell environment where you had to keep multiple months worth of material on hand at any given time. So that was an amazing change that we noticed right off the bat in terms of just handling inventory shelves of paper, along with any of the other items that come with keeping paper in your warehouse. Maybe a little paper curl makes some of that preprint shell unusable. All of those kinds of issues go out the door with an inkjet technology.
That's great. So Tina, I know you mentioned you're relatively recent to Inkjet in the last couple of years. Have you been able to get all your clients moved over onto white paper, or is that still an ongoing process?
You know, for our Texas facility, we were able to switch over all but 3 of our clients so far. The last 3 all source their own paper. So that's still an ongoing conversation where we're getting into that negotiation to see if we can't be a little bit better partner for our clients and have a couple more sticky points for them. For the California operation, we expect we'll have about 5 clients that we'll have to just sit down and have a good conversation about the consistency that they'll see in inkjet that they don't get on the offset preprint shell environment.
Yeah, because it's even though they manage their own paper and ordering, it's still a handling cost for you that adds to the bottom line. So cool.
Along with shipping costs they're eliminated now, and maybe even storage of additional preprint shells when the clients are trying to get the best possible price going. So yeah, we've eliminated all that cost out of the process for them.
That's great. So Rob, let's move on to you and Kubra next. I know you talked about some of the things that Tina mentioned, but also using ink limiting and trying to, once you're up and running, to continue to streamline the operation.
Yeah, so what we've done is, obviously we've saved money in inventory, we've decreased our inventory space, but white paper comes in rolls where we can poker chip as opposed to putting on shelving units. So we've actually taken out a lot of shelving out of our warehouses, creating more space for equipment, which is an inserter sometimes takes up a lot more space in inventory. So we've taken out shelving, we've increased our space. And as far as ink limiting, we test a lot of different papers because a lot of different papers react differently with the inks. And so we test them as far as quality and efficiency and whatnot. And we've gone into creating hot folders for certain accounts. A lot of our accounts that came off of preprint had some heavy coverage on them. So we found by testing various papers and just working with the ink, we were able to limit the amount of ink we were throwing down, saving us money and giving the client actually, in some cases, a better look than they were getting before. Some of the papers just react so different to the inks that are being laid down.
Mm-hmm. So if I can paraphrase a little bit, you're testing the paper and seeing how much you can cut back the ink and still get the color quality so that you save money on the ink. Are you taking that a step further and potentially doing more than one profile for the same paper so that you can price
100%, and that's what we're doing. Yeah. We are in the transactional world, so we're generally seeing anywhere between I would say 7 and 15% coverage. That's an average we're getting. Some accounts are a little bit heavier depending on what sort of inks they're laying down. But we found by playing with these profiles, playing with the ink coverages, and changing the paper, we're able to save money that way.
Great. Okay, thanks for sharing that. So Tommy, tell us about HC3 and what you guys are doing to cut physical waste out.
Sure. So when we moved to inkjet in 2012, 2013 with 2 continuous machines, we found that our SLAs didn't allow us to combine as many jobs as we would like to combine. So we were getting paper waste just, in the nature of a continuous operation. So we purchased the i300 and moved small jobs that had strict SLA requirements to the i300 and reduced our paper waste off of the continuous by 10 to 30%, depending on the size of the job. We also, with inkjet, were able to efficiently modify the data that and get it on the paper that we're getting from the bank cores. So where the bank cores are still typically sending us multi-line transactions for the DDA statements, we can reduce those to single-line transactions with inkjet and save our clients about 50% in paper cost.
That's huge. Yeah, that's great. That's definitely doing what's right by the customer, even if it reduces pages. That makes for a valuable client relationship. So good for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about some other aspects of waste, because it's not just the physical waste. It can be the people and the processes, and either having less people or allowing the people you have to do more things, or potentially a little bit of both. So let me actually start with you, Tommy. Let's do this in reverse. What would you like to tell us about the people side of this?
Sure. We're much more efficient with inkjet. When we adopted inkjet in 2012, we were fortunate in that we were able to move all of our clients off of shelves, and we quickly moved to a white paper factory, with the only exception being checks that we still run on shelves and run on a micro printer. But all of our regular transactional work moved to white paper. It relieved the operators of having to load forms, having to find the right form, load the forms, do the QC process that forms required to make sure we had the right form with the right client. Their inventory management duties disappeared, so they became much more efficient. Also, in the toner world, we had techs that lived with us. We had techs all the time. Every day that we operated, we had a print tech or 2 in our shop. With inkjet, that just went away. We rarely see a Canon tech in our shop. It's a rare occasion that we have to have a tech in, and uptime on printers, inkjet printers, has just been phenomenal.
So you just have to send them birthday cards now to keep in touch, huh?
That's right.
Great. So Tina, I think you also had some people stories you wanted to share as well.
We did. So we had over 8 cut sheet devices, all toner. And with the implementation of our continuous feed 6900, we were able to reduce open requisitions and then realign our people. They were very excited to have the opportunities, much like what Tommy mentioned. They could focus on being real print operators and developing new skill sets, taking a sense of pride in what they were doing. It was almost like a new career path for them, where that wouldn't have been possible in the old toner environment. But our people have really taken to the opportunity to become a little bit more of a specialist in an area, and they're far more engaged. They actually want to run the continuous feed printer. They're not intimidated by the size at all, because they realize how easy it is make the production happen on that system versus the multiple handling and the touch points that Tommy mentioned, and the checks on preprint shells and making sure you've got the right shell and the right draw and the right orientation depending on that cut sheet printer you've got. We've made print fun for our people again, and that's fantastic.
That's great. Yeah, and I think, potentially one of the upsides this year with Think being virtual is that some of the people who maybe wouldn't have had a chance to participate from the operations staff are getting to join sessions and learn and hear this stuff and, get excited about inkjet. So that's great. So I'm going to move on to some other areas, and I get to bother Rob on this one because I know he had a lot of things to say about, time and productivity and process and software and things like that. So what can you tell us about that side of the waste savings?
100%. I mean, ever since we've gone to the 3900 and 6900 platforms and moved away from our mono equipment, productivity has increased, I would almost say 50% in some cases. I mean, we're able to get files done in 2-3 hours, where before it was taking us anywhere from 3 to 6 hours and on multiple pieces of equipment, between starting and stopping and errors and whatnot. Definitely the machine time the uptime on the machines is way higher. I mean, Tommy said that he never sees his Canon tech. I mean, we do see our techs more often than not, but when I see them, I know the machines are running actually. They do perform maintenance on the machines periodically, but the machine definitely has a great uptime. As far as errors and quality, far fewer errors and quality errors on the rolls. We're printing roll to roll and roll to cut, and we do a lot of quality checks in between, and the errors are fewer and far between. We saw more errors and quality issues on the mono equipment than we ever do on the 6900s.
Why do you suppose that is?
I think it's just I know it's the quality, it's the heads and the way it's printing so you've got your inkjet and your spray heads, and the print quality is just far superior compared to what's going on in the mono equipment, where there's a lot of heat, there's a lot of transfer going on, you're pressing that ink on the paper. I mean, there's far less issues going on in the inkjet systems. I mean, gotcha. you can see when you open up the inkjet systems, there's just less going on in the machine than there is going on in a 7650, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you were talking about print quality errors. I was thinking about, production, like loading the wrong form errors and that type of thing. Which
100% that as well. We used to have many of those, people grabbing the wrong forms, wrong letterheads. I mean, you had clients, Tina said it before, with multiple letterheads, and now you can, you're basically printing letterhead yourself. So you can run those, and even in tandem, you can run all, and that's a client that's running multiple forms, run them right behind each other in tandem. Far less, obviously a lot less errors. I mean, the operator's not even thinking at that point what paper to load. He's just pressing play on the machine, and away you go.
Yep, and fast. And away you go fast.
A lot faster.
So now that we talked a little bit about some of the errors and other, less obvious problem areas that can potentially be overcome with inkjet versus other technology, let's talk a little bit about the processes themselves that you guys have used. Whether that's a formalized process or methodology or a little bit more homegrown. And I'd like to talk to each of you about that. But Tina, let's start with you because you had a few thoughts to share.
Sure. So everything that we've done has been homegrown. In our toner environment, we had print production trackers from each operator. And we were doing a manual tally on an Excel spreadsheet, trying to figure out where we were, especially during peak production times. Now that we've installed Prisma as our sort of user interface for the employees, we're able to track exact numbers regardless of the printer that they're running on, and to get a good handle on what it is we can actually produce in a day. And that information is really exciting. It's empowering. It gives you a handle on what your production looks like, whether or not you have any concerns around the service level, especially in the bank and credit union world where you've got some tight service levels, 1 or 2 weeks out of the month that are especially pressing. It's also given us an opportunity to provide specific feedback to the employees when we sit down to have a review, we actually have a good number to share with them to say, hey, look how you're tracking, just measuring yourself against your own productivity, and then overall as a whole, what are we able to produce? And I feel like that information that we've got now from Prisma has really helped us grow the business model, along with having good conversations around available capacity that before was really a little more back of the napkin. And now we feel very confident in what we can do to onboard new work.
Yeah, I think that transparency of information is really important to kind of developing the shared goals and incenting the team and that type of thing. Do you guys have any bonuses or incentives that are tied to how the company does and how you manage capacity and things like that?
We do one-off bonuses depending on the situation. So if we're looking at a really high production week with a specialty request that came in for a client, we do everything we can to incentivize the staff to keep going, keep trying. We feed them a lot. But then at the end of the production process, the owners feel really strongly about recognizing the staff. We did something coming out of our tax season this year because it was especially taxing. And each production side really did enjoy the additional bonus incentive that was provided. So it's nice to see that come about. And I think part of the reason why we're able to do it is because we can show what the actual performance has been now in a way that it's really almost mind-blowing that we waited this long to take advantage of the technology and the opportunity.
Well, and you'll just keep doing more. So, okay, so Tommy, I think you said that you guys do, at least in part, use a fairly formal methodology as part of your quality process. Is that right?
That's right. Our process is a mix of both homegrown, formal, and outsourced. So, at our core, we manage complex data generated from multiple client systems. So due to this, we have to have standard practices in place to ensure quality. We do that within an environment of clients that, ask us to be treated individually. Each bank is different, and they want to see different things on their statements, and we're able to do that within our the system that's a mix of both inside and outside assets. We're also a EOS company, so that's an entrepreneurial operating system that basically runs our organization. It's designed to achieve three basic objectives: a vision, so that we get everybody on the same page, we've got everybody going in the same direction. It gives us traction. We use the EOS tools to have effective meetings and proven best practices. We gain traction in executing our vision, and we're healthy. We work openly and honestly as a team with one another. We say what needs to be said with respect and confidence, so that we are a much more healthy, cohesive team. We're all going in the same direction, serving our clients.
That's great. So you've got the entrepreneurial sheep herding methodology, as I would rename it. So,
that's right.
Just to keep my sheep in the mix, as we're going through it. So Rob, I know you talked a little bit about process, but you've also used a lot of kind of technology to drive and surround the process as well, right?
I mean, most of our software is homegrown, proprietary software that we've built. Mm-hmm. However, I mean, as you grow over the years and get different clients, you've got to get some other bolt on some other products out there. So we've got a mix of equipment and products. So we've got Prisma, Solimar, Crawford. Most recently, we've had Compart. The reason we got Compart was for color conversion. We got the 6900s and the 3900s because we had big color clients that we needed the equipment for speed and volume and SLA and everything else. However, we've got a ton of other clients that are still on preprint that we have not converted over. So as opposed to building it ourselves, we went out there and looked for some pieces that we could bolt onto our systems, and that's why we went to Compart. So we're using them right now for our color conversion. New Jersey is our only facility that we've converted entirely to color. The other sites have color, but we still got a mix of cut sheet and pre-printed rolls as well that we're actually converting over. So hopefully by the end of 2020, mid into 2021, we should be able to convert the entire company over to white paper.
That's great. So it's interesting because you mentioned that you have a lot of your systems that are actually homegrown, and I tend to see less of that going forward. But is part of your process for continuing to get better a combination of updating the proprietary and buying new, or you think you'll move away from the proprietary?
I think it's as you get accounts, I think they start looking at our IT staff starts looking at what's easier. Is it easier to build it in-house, or is it easier just to buy something off the shelf and bolt it onto our current systems? And in a lot of cases, as we get new clients, it's easier just to get an extra module from Solomon or Crawford and bolt it into our systems and work that way. It's easier, faster, probably a lot less money and time invested.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as long as you don't have a whole bunch of different operatings that you have to support with the part that you're doing the code for, that tends to be part of the challenge. Okay, great. So now let's talk a little bit about the process improvements from the outside, right? Because being good, as we've talked about, sufficient for your bottom line, but it's also driving results for your customers. So let's talk a little bit about how the clients benefit. And Tina, I know you raised your hand for this one right away when we talked about it earlier. Do you want to talk about some of the things that you've done?
Sure. So we have one client experience that sort of sets the tone for how we have new ways to sort of save the day for our clients these days. We have a client who had sourced their own paper, and they had a great contract that covered many of their branches, everything that they basically needed, and they were intent on sticking with that process. And so we engaged with their third-party vendor to release preprint shelves to us as needed. And it turns out that the client had a major run on a business line, and it far exceeded what the produced preprint shell work looked like for them. And we ended up in a position where we had about 3,000 envelopes that still needed to go out the door with an average of 2.3 images per envelope and no preprint. And of course, they had a service level on it, and it was expected to mail within 24 to 48 hours, depending. And we reached out to the third-party vendor, and they weren't prepared for it. They were an offset shop, and they needed time. And the client didn't have time, so we asked if this one time, would you share the art with us and let us just create off a PDF for you, and we'll get this file handled. And they agreed. And thankfully, the color was very easy to match. We were able to convert that within an hour and a half, and we had that file complete in no time. And the beauty of it from a production perspective is now we don't have the file on the floor. We're not sitting and waiting and having to do a follow-up about it. But from the client perspective, they appreciated that we had a way to sort of jump through a hoop that we didn't have before. And it opened the door to the conversation for our sales team about, would you consider, let us be your print provider in totality. Certainly get the paper you need from your offset person, but there's no reason to manage to this level and then not enjoy the benefits of spikes in your business lines when we can handle it on the fly as needed. And so we're really excited because, frankly, that file running it on a preprint shell on cut sheet devices was painful. So we're very glad we managed to get that paper contract, and it's made a world of difference for the client experience and for the production team as well.
Yeah, that's a great story. So, Tommy, you had a few things that came up specifically during the pandemic where you were able to make some changes for the benefit of the client, right?
That's right, Elizabeth. Because we're a white paper factory, when the pandemic arrived, we were in a position to allow clients to quickly change messages on their statements and letters so that they could, tailor those messages to things that they needed to inform their customers, branch hours, branch closings, by appointment only type situations with branches. So all of that information that their customers needed was easily changed in a short period of time, and allowed them to really effectively communicate with their clients. And, as we offer focused solutions for statement redesign and intelligent marketing campaigns and intelligent communication, like we ran into during the pandemic, Inkjet remains a trusted partner in enabling us to deliver that level of quality and flexibility for enhanced statements that keeps our customers satisfied and their customers satisfied.
That's great. Yeah, I mentioned earlier that I'd done, many years of transaction communication redesign, and one of the things that would come up is people designing all kinds of message areas, and then it didn't say anything but important information below, and it really didn't get used. And I think, with everything that's been going on now, whether it's banks or retail or, credit cards or whatever it is, boy, has a lot of that messaging been flying, whether it's just, outreach to the customer saying we're here, we're in it together, or as you said, really important information about whether you can or can't come to the branch. So that being able to do that on the fly, and also potentially not have it in a pre-printed box that you can't expand if you need to, also provides a tremendous amount of flexibility. So Rob, anything you want to add from the customer perspective from Kubra?
Yeah. We were right what you just said, Elizabeth. We had the tools there, and people never used them. They would occasionally use them, but they never really used the message boxes or the areas. We have an online tool that you can go in and change your message daily. As long as it's 12 hours before our file runs and you change a message, it'll just update the system. We obviously check and make sure nobody's put anything in there that shouldn't be there, but clients can go in and update. They started utilizing that messaging area during COVID more than ever. And in a lot of cases, unfortunately, we do cannibalize our own business because we are an e-bill company as well. So a lot of the messages are pushing people to e-bill. It's good for the company. It's not good for my area of the business, but in the end, you don't mind it. But we did see an influx of clients using our online tools that we have and adding the messaging, moving things around, adding a lot more images on the forms and whatnot, adding extra pages with inserts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always say to transaction companies, it's not necessarily that you want to get your customers to go paperless, but you do want to be really good at helping them use less paper. So, use it wisely, do it right, and messaging can be really a key part of that. So here's the pop quiz part of the presentation. We've all had this great opportunity to talk, and we're letting the folks in the audience learn from you guys. What have you guys learned from each other, or is there anything you'd like to ask each other on the panel? I'm going to start with Tina again.
Okay, so kind of like what Rob was referring to in terms of sort of bolting on other sort of outsourced opportunities to help expand your color offering, I think that would be really exciting. Since we are a technology company, we do our own programming as well, so it's sort of the fallback that we're going to problem solve and take care of everything internally. But we do hit on some hiccups here and there. Some of it is just, programming for the electronic document side in RGB and realizing you had to make a change if you wanted to print it. That was going to be in CMYK. So I think Rob brings up a really good point to the value of looking at other opportunities like a Crawford, like a Compart, even a Solimar to help with some of those one-off nuanced color requests that clients get. So I think it's a really good story to tell for onboarding other tools.
Yeah, the tools, and also just thinking about what you want your color strategy to be, because you also have to communicate that to your customers so they're sending you the resources the right way and everything comes through the process the right way. So let me toss this over to you, Tommy. Anything you would like to comment on from your co-presenters or learn more about?
Well, one thing I'd like to learn more about, Elizabeth, and it's something that we have not done very well. We know that we have saved money switching from toner to ink. Does Tina or Rob have any more specific information on how much less the ink is than toner.
That's a good question. I wish I had those numbers in front of me because I know I've ran them probably a dozen or so times. I would say we've definitely saved anywhere between, I'm gonna say 15 and 25% costs. I mean, inkjet is definitely a lot cheaper than toner. We're running, you know, when you take the whole mix in there, the paper, the toner, labor, and everything else, you are definitely seeing a savings anywhere between 15 and 20%.
Yeah, and the one thing I'd add is it's tricky because if you were comparing full color inkjet to full color toner, it's probably inkjet's probably like full color toner is about 8 to 9 times more expensive. I mean, that's really dramatic. But usually in the transaction print world, you're moving from monotoner over to full color inkjet. So, you know, it's really, as Rob said, it's the whole enchilada that you have to look at when you're doing that total cost of operations and comparing the two.
I mean, when we first got into full color in 2013, I think we ran every scenario under the sun before we would do it because it was a lot more expensive. We found it more expensive, but over the last 7-8 years, the prices have definitely come down, which makes it more advantageous to run inkjet over toner. I mean, that's why we're just converting all the sites to inkjet sites.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as I said, it's a little different for everybody because it depends on how much you're moving stuff around from warehouse to warehouse, whether you're printing on pre-printed stocks. Like if you were just doing, you know, mono notice printing on plain paper to start with on toner, you're going to have a different set of math than someone who is getting rid of 203 different pre-printed stocks and then printing in color on that paper. So, and ganging jobs together. Just the time of changing rolls itself on pre-printed stocks is huge. And it also depends on how well you've managed the papers that you're going to narrow things down to for customers as well, and doing things like, you know, splicing rolls, ganging jobs. You know, some of the things that you dealt with, Tommy, you said you had really small ones that you went to a cut sheet printer for. If everything's on the same paper, you can gang any size job together theoretically and do well. So
Actually,
it's really different.
That's something Canon's helped us with. So what we've started doing is ganging jobs together, and as opposed to running the smaller jobs on a cut sheet color or a cut sheet printer, we can take a client that has multiple small jobs and say they have 20, 30 small jobs, and just run them all at the same time and just separate them with banner pages. And that's something Canon actually helped us work on and develop with us, so we could separate the jobs properly.
That's great. And that, you know, that's a huge way to drive waste out. So, well, thanks everyone for sharing those areas of learning. Because we said there's all different places where the waste can be lurking. And if you don't get the waste out of your shop, you know, the physical, the space, the time, the ink, there's an opportunity cost as well, because you don't have the capacity to expand into other things. You're not necessarily getting the most out of the inkjet device. You're not as cost competitive. You potentially have slower onboarding as well to get your you know, get those jobs on, and just the flexibility to enter new markets as well. You know, the more automated your workflow is and the more flexible, the more opportunities there are for you to move to different areas. So, but I'm glad to hear about all the things you guys have been doing. And I want to thank you all again for being here today at Think and talking through all this. And now we'd like to turn it over to the audience for questions.